In case you've forgotten, we're here to help you be a better dungeon master. This is how to be a better DM. Today we're going to be talking about 11 things every dungeon master should remember, part 2. Yesterday was part 1, today is part 2. We're going to start up with number 7. But before that, let me just tell you who I am. My name is Justin Lewis. I've been dungeon mastering for about 7-8 years now, and I've been doing this podcast for over 160 episodes, which has allowed me to really dig into the nuances of being a dungeon master, talk with some pretty amazing people who have expert experience. I guess that's a little bit redundant, but expert experience in real-life situations such as blacksmiths, voice actors, and even improv comedians. I wanted to say that differently, but I didn't. Anyways, jeez, I am on a roll today. But we're all doing this to help you shorten the learning curve of being a dungeon master. Take your novice experience and advance it to being experienced. Again, with the redundancies. I guess, again, with the redundancies. That's also redundant. Whatever. And we're doing all of this to help you be a better dungeon master. As I said, today is the second part of our podcast yesterday, so 11 things every dungeon master should remember. One thing you should remember about today's episode and yesterday's is I'm doing a bit different. I'm doing a little bit more loose, a little bit more off the cuff, and hopefully you enjoy it more. Generally, I'm a little bit more scripted. Today, not so much. More it's about bullet points and things I want to tell you. So they're a lot more like my Instagram lives that I've been doing. And I want to know if you like it and if you think it's cool. If you're watching this on YouTube also, let me know how you think, what you think about my background and how it can be improved and really just what can make your viewing experience much better. My head's askew. I'm going to fix my hat. There I go. Number 7. This is the secret of the Jonas Brothers' success. If you're not familiar, the Jonas Brothers are a musical group that started on the Disney Channel. Much like other Disney Channel groups, they are, they're sort of interesting because while they're on the Disney Channel, they're kind of corny, they're exciting, they're like, yeah! And then they move away from the Disney Channel, they take some time to themselves, and then they sort of rebrand. Hannah Montana did this. I think Selena Gomez, Demi Lovato also did this. Although with the females, I think it's a little bit easier to do this than if you're the Jonas Brothers. I digress. Back in high school, as I've already mentioned, I did percussion. So I was in percussion class, and our instructor, who was a really cool guy by the name of Mike Hustis, he kind of stopped the class because we were doing this practice, and he had everyone pay attention because he was going to give us a lecture about someone. And he said, really kind of in regards to one of our classmates who didn't have a lot of confidence, didn't really seem like they were kind of into it. And he said, you need to be like the Jonas Brothers. All right. You need to commit and you need to own it. Own who you are. All right. The Jonas Brothers make a lot of money, frankly. They make a lot more money than I do. And to be fair, they had a very different start than I did, right? They were on the Disney Channel. They had to be the Jonas Brothers on the Disney Channel before they could be the Jonas Brothers of today. But they committed to that. Same thing with the Wiggles. The Wiggles make a ton of money, and yet they're still the Wiggles, okay? Because they commit to what they are, and they do it full-fledged. And I tell you this story to sort of illustrate the point for number 7, which is make it corny until it's not. And I do this a little bit to kind of remind myself, specifically as it regards in-combat dialogue. So when you hit the bad guy and then the bad guy says, it doesn't matter, we're still going to win. Stuff like that. You need to be okay with it being corny. The Jonas Brothers were kind of corny at the beginning, right? And now they're actually something to be taken seriously. You need to be okay looking like a fool until you don't. It's called practice. When you are playing D&D, you're going to come up with NPCs. You're going to make things up on the spot. You're going to come up with storylines that to you aren't exactly fully there, but they're the best you got right now. That's okay. And in fact, that's wonderful, because the more you do that, the less often they will be quote unquote corny. And instead, they will start becoming memorable and intriguing. And that's called practice. So, number 7 is let it be corny until it's not corny. If you forget number 8, this next tip, you will never have fun ever again playing D&D. Ever. And let me illustrate this with another story. Fancy that. So, in high school, we had a friend. His name was Brandon. We would go to his house not every Friday, but often on Fridays. And at least for me, he was kind of like, I don't know, just like going to his house. It was like going to a richer kid's house. It just felt that way just because, I don't know. That's just how it felt for me. Regardless, he had a lot more gaming consoles than I did, frankly, and a lot more video games, frankly. And going on Fridays to his house was really fun because often we would end up getting pizza and we would just play video games like all night. It was greatest. You know, like what more could you ask for in high school aside from a girlfriend, which I didn't have. And we would play a lot of games. And I remember this one distinct experience where we were playing Call of Duty Modern Warfare 2, I think it was. It was either 2 or 3. I think it was 2. Maybe it was 1. But also, very fun game. I am not good at video games, generally. And when we played, I was doing so bad. So bad. Like, so bad. And I was getting mad. And the madder I got, the worse I got. And the madder I got, the more they laughed at me, my friends. And the more they laughed at me, the worse I got, which made me madder. And it was like this very terrible cycle. I was getting so mad. I remember stepping away, like going upstairs and like doing like 50 push-ups straight just because I was so pissed. And when you're in high school, it's like, oh, everything's so important to me, which is funny because looking back, it's just a bunch of laughs now. And then I go back and I still did really bad. And the thing I forgot, which is tip number 8, which if you forget, you'll never have fun playing D&D again, is that it's just a game, right? It's just a game. Now, while Call of Duty maybe has a little bit less transferable skill development than Dungeons and Dragons, which actually uses critical thinking, teamwork, collaboration, role-playing for sure, and a lot of other things, it's still a game at the end of the day. Yes, you need to work on skills. Yes, you need to practice. No, you don't want it to take over your life. You don't need it to destroy everything else that you have going on. Not just that, but you don't need to stress too much about the game because it's a game. And one of the reasons why humans invented games is so that way we could learn things in a fun way. This game teaches you a lot, and you can learn a lot from it. But you don't learn as much and you don't get taught as much if you're not having fun. And if you forget that it's just a game, the fun goes away. And more importantly, the fun goes away for your players first, before it goes away for you. Not just that, but if you can continue having fun, everything you do is going to be much better. Do you want to play Dungeons and Dragons with me? Well, you know you can. We offer professional dungeon master services. That's right. All of our podcast hosts are professional game masters that you can hire for your private or corporate Dungeons and Dragons game. We can do one-shots or long-term campaigns. And if you want to schedule your first session with us, go to sessionzerostudios.com/dungeon-master-4-hire and get started. As an added bonus, because we are still in our introductory launch phase of this service, currently we are offering professional dungeon master sessions for $5. That's right, for only $5. And this offer will not last because, frankly, we only have a certain amount of time in the day. So Get your $5 D&D session while it lasts before spots fill up. Thanks again for listening to our show. If you like our content and would like to engage with more of it, head over to our Instagram account at HowToBeABetterDM and give us a follow. Make sure to watch some of our Dungeon Master Rules videos while you're there to give yourself some more structure and procedure as a Dungeon Master. Also, don't forget to reach out with a DM and we can talk shop and I can get to know you a little bit better. Thanks again for listening, because your heart is going to be in the game. You will notice that session prep won't be tedious because it's fun. Doing the things that your players want to do won't be tedious because it's fun. So remember, it's just a game. For number 10, let me start with the story instead of a promise. Back in 2013, I was serving an LDS mission in Italy, and I had gotten a new companion, which means a new coworker, essentially. And in our off time, we didn't have a lot to do. We didn't have TV. We didn't have things to listen to, but we could draw. And my companion, Elder Rivera, he was really good at drawing comics, right? He was working on this really cool zombie comic. And if you're listening, I really hope you finish that and publish it. If you haven't finished it and you're looking for collaborators, reach out to me and I'll try and connect you with anyone I know. But when you're with someone that long, you sort of kind of start picking up their hobby. So I started giving drawing a try, and I was kind of drawing this superhero thing that I thought was really cool. And I was doing like a couple different iterations, and I found this one that I really liked. And I was like, yeah, this is so cool. And then I showed it to Elder Rivera, and he's like, yeah, that's all right. You know, I would change this, and this. And I told him, I can't do that. Like, I can't do that. I'm not going to erase it and change it. And he said something to me that has stuck with me for a very long time. He said, in order to be a great artist, or great anything, really, you have to be willing to sacrifice your best work now in order to get better. You have to realize that everything you do from this point on is likely better than the best thing you've ever done. And that's simply because of growth. And that's number 10. Your best is yet to come as a Dungeon Master. Though you might not be like Matt Mercer or Brennan Lee Mulligan, your best is yet to come. And you won't get there unless you keep going. So do that next session. Get that next D&D group. Try that next one-shot. Write that next campaign. Take that next leap, and maybe you land. But maybe you don't. It doesn't matter, though, because if you keep going, inevitably, you will reach your peak as long as you keep trying. So number 10, the best is yet to come. Number 11, I bet you wish you were as good of a voice actor as Lee Bradley Baker, the guy who does the clones on Clone Wars. Phenomenal voice actor. There's a lot of other voice actors out there that, frankly, you probably wish you were like. But here's what you might be missing. Back about, I think 6 months ago from this point, maybe it was a year ago now, we interviewed Victor Bavine, who, if you don't know who that is, go on to Audible, type in Homeland, and look for a book by R.A. Salvatore. It's about Driz Do'Urden, who is maybe one of the most iconic characters from the Forgotten Realms canon, perhaps. He is just a really cool character, amazing books. And on Audible, they are narrated by Victor Bavine. He is the voice actor. And growing up, Driz Do'Urden was probably my first encounter with the Forgotten Realms in any real way. And I would listen to these books. So for me, Driz Do'Urden was Victor Bavine. And we had Victor on the podcast. We were able to talk to him about this. And it was so surreal because he did some of the cool voices that he does in the audiobook, just talking to him. But he said something I'll never forget. He said, when you're a voice actor, you want to make the voice of the main character as close to your voice as possible. Because it's hard to kind of switch voices, and the more talking you do, the more you want it to be comfortable and easy. So the main character, you want to be very comfortable because they're likely going to be doing one of the most talking parts of the whole work, you could say. When he said that to me, obviously I heard a nice piece of recommendation for voice acting, but more importantly, I learned a very important truth because I'd listened to his books and I'd heard how good he was, and I heard Drizdo Erden in his personal ponderings and musings. I'd heard the character pour out his heart and go through these ups and downs, and it was so real to me, and to realize that Victor Bravin wasn't doing a voice for my favorite character, but instead he was doing the character. This taught me the 11th thing that you need to remember, and that is it's not the accent, but the actor. It doesn't matter what kind of voice you do as long as the voice portrays the character, and more often than not, that means your inflection, your pacing, your highs and lows. I think that is inflection, perhaps. Your pitch, maybe. Your speed. All of these things. Your emotion, right? All of these things are more important than the actual accent, right? You could do a Scottish accent, but if you can't make that Scottish accent sound sad or happy or excited, then who cares what accents you can do, because you can't act worth a darn. Now, obviously, I know not all of us have acting abilities. I'm looking at myself. I was never in any plays or anything growing up. I was always, like I said, doing percussion in the background. But when you role play, if you can't do accents, don't worry about it. Because what's more important is learning how to convey emotion. To show people that your character is tired and sad. Or to show people that your character is willing to do anything to get revenge. Now, you can display all that with much more than just a Scottish accent, right? So, number 11, it's not the accent, but it's the actor. Now, obviously, there are lots more things that you can remember as a dungeon master. And I think the only last thing that I would say is number 12, and I think I've already said this, kind of woven throughout these, but number 12 would just be keep going, keep being a dungeon master, because you'll get everything that I've talked about today, everything that I talked about yesterday on yesterday's episode, and everything that you'll ever hear from us on how to be a better DM. Just as long as you keep going and being a dungeon master, you'll get it. And you'll probably get there a lot faster than me. It takes me a long time to learn things, probably because I don't remember stuff. But keep going. And when you do reach those high points, make sure you document it and include others. We'd love to hear of your successes. So if you have particularly good sessions, let us know, because we want to bask in the glory of your majesty. Thank you for listening to today's episode, and thank you for supporting How to Be a Better DM, a podcast brought to you by the Session Zero Studios Podcast Network. If you like this show, well, you're awesome. That's all I got to say about that. We will be back next week with another handcrafted episode just for you. But until then, let's go ahead and roll initiative.